I want to come back to another thing that you said is that in Matthew 16, verse 19, he's given the keys. Is that in 19 or in 18? I think it's in 19.
I think it starts in 18.
Mm-hmm.
Starts in 19. He's given
verse 19.
Okay.
He's given the keys, and then it says, and then whatever you bound on earth will be bound in heaven. Whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. So, but then in Matthew 18, he gives that same ability to all of the apostles.
Right.
Whatever you bound, whatever you loose. So here's a question that I've got, because in Jimmy Akin's work, he believes that in verses in Matthew 16, in each verse, 16, 17, 18, and 19, I want to make sure I'm getting the references right. Is that it? It starts, blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, in 17?
That is 17.
17.
Yeah.
So in 17 and in 18 and in 19, the first part of the verse is explained by the later two parts of the verse. And so I guess my question, this may be a better question for Jimmy Akin himself, because this is kind of his own view, is maybe we could call him up on that.
I'll call
Just
him
call
if you
everybody.
call Ortland.
So he believes that in Matthew 18, 16, 19, that the second part of the verse is explaining the first part. So what we mean by you are given the keys is explained by, and then whatever you bound on earth will be bound in heaven, whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. But if that explains the keys, then wouldn't that connection still exist in Matthew 18, such that all of the apostles would also have their own set of keys, so to speak, or metaphorical set of keys? So do you see the connection that I'm making?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm grateful for Jimmy. He does masterful work,
He's
and
amazing.
I wish he were here so we could defer to his explanatory judgment. In lieu of that, I would say that, when I was saying before that, Solomon in 1 Kings 2, 3, and 4 is established as king. He establishes the cabinet, the 12 royal ministers. The evidence I think, strongly supports the idea that, like in every other monarchy, you have a prime minister. But that is not like a tug of war. In certain issues, it will be. But in Isaiah 22, you have the language, I give you the key of the house of David. He shall open and none shall shut. He shall shut and none shall open, which is just a variation on whatever you bind and loose. And again, Protestant scholars, D.A. Carson, Davies and Allison and others would support that. So what? Well, it's participatory. It's not competitive. It isn't 1 versus 11. Unless there is a situation where you have bad bishops teaching bad doctrine, and then you have the successor of Peter convening a council, perhaps, and formulating the Nicene Creed or the Chalcedonian formula, as we have in 451. But you really have something that you have to understand in terms of a hierarchy that is not a political power structure. It's much more like an extended family, so that Peter has authority, and he possesses a primacy. But I would say that he would joyfully defer to his brother bishops as Christ has deferred to him on every occasion. But the thing that isn't repeated in Matthew 18 is the idea of the keys of the kingdom. So that whatever you bind, and I think we have got to get the verb tense right. Whatever you bind on earth will have been bound in heaven.
Okay.
So you don't have the earthly tail wagging the heavenly dog, so to speak. The Holy Spirit is being poured out from Christ the head to his vicar, so that, he doesn't always do it in a timely way. He might not say the right thing in the right way at the right time, but the popes over the years, the centuries, will invariably lead the church to an authoritative understanding of right doctrine, sometimes in spite of themselves, or in spite of delay, or in spite of ambiguity. But I think that is something that the other 11 shared in the lifetime of Jesus, and that this is why Vatican I, teaching papal primacy and infallibility, needs to be balanced with Vatican II, that teaches episcopal collegiality, because it's not a rivalry. At times, James and John made it seem like it is. We want the right and the left. But ultimately, you see that if this is traceable back to the Trinity, the Father is not threatened by having the Son be the King of Kings. Peter is not threatened by the other apostles proclaiming the gospel and defining doctrine. And so this is why there really is a sense in which bishops to this day, and they number in the thousands, participate in the charism of infallibility that is not ultimately traceable back to Peter or the Pope, but to Christ himself. So that, on this rock, I will build my church. He doesn't say, you're the rock, build me a church, and the other 11, you'll get around to it as well. It's on this rock, I will build my church. And as we explain in the notes of the Ignatius Catholic Study Bible, the keys go back to Isaiah 22, where Hezekiah is establishing the prime minister after Shebna is deposed and Eliakim replaces him. But you also have on this rock the Hebrew tradition of the Even Shetiyah, the foundation stone laid in Zion that you read about in Isaiah 8 and in Isaiah 28 as well. So this is where we have the Dome of the Rock today, the Muslim shrine built over the foundation stone that what represents the Temple Mount. And so here Jesus is also tapping into something that is non-competitive, that if Peter's the rock, that doesn't mean Christ isn't. No, Christ is first and foremost the rock. And then Peter, who has professed that faith, then the other 11 as well. And then all of us are living stones that are built into this spiritual temple, as our first Pope writes in his first epistle.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment below letting us know what you thought about the video.